Good evening, and welcome to this April 16th, 2018 meeting of the Merrimack School Board. If you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item number 2 on tonight's agenda is school board reorganization. This is where for the 2018 to 2019 year, we will elect a chair and a vice chair. Are there any nominations for chair? Cinda.
I'd like to nominate Shannon Barnes as chairperson of the 2018-19 school board.
Thank you. Is there a second? Seconded by Andy.
Second.
Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yeah, I'd like you to remain the chairperson of this committee of the school board, because I think you've done a great job in the way that you've been working with our agenda, with the public, and I'd really like to see you complete another year as chair.
Thank you very much. Is there any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? 1. The motion carries 4-1-0 with Board Member Thompson in opposition. Is there a nomination for vice chair? Michael.
I'd like to nominate Andy Schneider as vice chair for the school board.
Is there a second? Seconded by Naomi. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, I think that Andy has done a good job. I'm looking forward to Andy possibly getting a more involved role with as the vice chair to the board. Looking forward to another year. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion on the nomination? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None. The motion carries 5-0. Item number 3 is a commitment to the Board of Ethics. What we will do is review and sign the Code of Ethics that we do every year, first meeting after the election. And we will just read through. I will take the first section and we can go down the line and just read through it so the public knows what we sign off on every year. So, the Merrimack School Board Code of Ethics. As a member of the Merrimack School Board, I shall promote the best interests of the district by adhering to the following ethical standards and affix my signature to the same. Section 1, Trustworthy and Responsibilities. I will always remember that my first and greatest concern will be the educational welfare of the students in the Merrimack School District. I will be accountable to the public by accurately representing district policies, programs, priorities, and progress. I will be responsive to the community by seeking its involvement in the district affairs and by communicating its priorities and concerns. I will work to ensure prudent and accountable use of district resources and never lose sight of the fiscal responsibility owed to the taxpayers of the district. I will make no personal promise or take private action that may compromise my performance or my responsibilities or those of my fellow board members. I will avoid being placed in a position of conflict of interest and refrain from using my board position for personal or partisan gain.
Next section, honor and conduct. I will be honest, fair, just, and impartial in all my decisions and actions. I will encourage and respect open dialogue and listen with an open mind while working for consensus. I will respect the majority decision as the decision of the board.
Integrity of character. I will consistently uphold all applicable laws, rules, policies, and district procedures. I will not disclose information that is confidential by law or that will undermine the district.
Commitment to service. I will focus my attention on fulfilling the board's responsibilities of goal setting, policy making, and evaluation. I will diligently prepare for and attend board meetings. You want to take the last one?
I will avoid personal involvement in activities the board has delegated to the superintendent, and I will inform myself about relevant educational issues.
We will now take a moment to sign the Code of Ethics. Thank you. On to item number 4, which is public participation. If anyone from the public would like to speak, please come to the microphone to the right of the table and state your name and address for the record. Seeing none, we will close public participation. Item number 5, O'Gara Drive amenity update from the Department of Public Works, from Matt Chevanel.
Thank you. We've been in communication with Kyle Fox, the Director of Public Works for the town, and this is regarding the O'Gara Drive property with the basketball court and the tennis courts and the skateboard park and ice skating rink is. So he gave us a schedule of what their plans are for that property, seeing that the lease is going to be expiring at the end. The lease to us is going to be, to them, from us, is going to be expiring at the end of June of this year, and they have to return the property back to us in a state that we had discussed at one of our joint meetings. So during April vacation, we've arranged for the town to be able to have access to the property, which makes sense because there won't be any traffic as far as high school kids coming or parents coming and going. So the electrical service for the lights at the tennis court and ice skate rinks are all going to be removed. The tennis courts will be removed. It says in the memo April 29th, but all this is going to take place on the 23rd of April. The entire vacation week should take a few days. So the tennis courts are going to be removed, the poles, the nets, the asphalt surface, and everything will be graded smooth. The basketball court is also going to be done at that time, and I guess they have to maintain some sort of passive recreation presence there, so they're going to place 2 picnic tables in that area. And then the skating rink, which I guess is something that's done every single year, is going to be removed and stored by the highway department. So everything that I just listed is going to be done. The only thing that's not going to be done is no one's going to be touching anything in regards to the skate park until a later date, when they have an idea where to relocate.
Cinda?
Just to kind of keep this on the radar, I believe I recall from our November 14th meeting that we had asked for the town council to take a vote on what they want us to do exactly with the skate park. Does that ring a bell? And so I don't think that we've received a letter or a vote has happened regarding that, but before it gets too close, we may want to follow up with them to make sure that we have everything in order prior to that, and so we're not kind of at the last minute scrambling.
And I remember at our joint meeting, I think something was said about we can't really discuss it until the lease is up. So, and I wanted to get a point of clarification that I believe it's July 31st is when the agreement is expiring, so we can't really talk about the skate park
Yes, correct.
until August 1st.
Right.
So with the reorg of the council, we will reach out to the chair and plan next steps.
And then my next question would be along those same lines. Like if our lease agreement with the town is until that last date, do we need something temporary to bind us? Is there anything, I mean, is it okay that it's kind of loosey-goosey and it's just staying there? Or do we need something that is a formal request for us to ask permission
yeah.
to, you
I
understand
think
what I'm saying?
we just couldn't extend it because it can't do any type of same
Yeah.
arrangement. So we are going to have to find out what we can do and when we can put it in place. So we will make sure that knowing what they have to deal with legally, that we are as proactive as possible with the town.
I
And I'm
think
sure we can
A
work
courtesy
with-
letter?
I
or
think
something?
at a minimum, we'd have to have, seeing they would still be responsible for that property. It wouldn't be, turned over to us at that point in time, because they do probably need more time, to have us in receipt of like a certificate of insurance for that segment of the property, just
that's
to
all
cover
I'm asking
us.
is to make sure that
Yeah.
we've got our, that things are the way they should be.
Yep.
And that
Mhm.
it's not just out
and
there.
come up with something a little more structured for
Correct.
until the next step is in place.
Thank
I
you.
think I have Michael, and then I have Andy.
So I guess just for a point of clarification on the property itself, on July 31st, we do not take it back. It's just that does agreement end on that date between the town and the school?
That's correct.
Mhm.
So I would say that we obviously are not in Parks and Rec for the town. So would we have to actually take possession, possibly close it until we had a meeting with the town and then possibly look at options beyond that. And if we are, I think we have to decide that as a board. And if we're going to do that, I think we should have a public outreach to explain why that may happen if that's the process that we would have to do, just to make sure it's clear that it's because of the process and not for any other reason. So I would think based off of, even if they had insurance, we still have the property, right? So I'm not sure if that would.
Mark?
We would.
legally.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think it would be good if we wait until April 30. Let's see about fulfillment of the amenity plan as it's been described. Then we can thank them for the effort they put forward, and then ask the follow-up, because then something's happened. So we'll try and have something for you by May 7th.
And I'm sorry, you were. I was just to further to Mike's point. I agree with him because I think that I know as one member of the school board, I don't have a problem with it being there. It's not like we're kicking them off of the property. We're simply fulfilling the town's wishes in accordance with their agreements and how they've structured them. So, I mean, I'm totally open to what we need to do going forward. But I think to Mike's point that there's some clear communication about what's actually happening
To the public.
Yeah.
Right. Andy? And then Chris.
So, if I remembered, one of the things that stuck in my head after that meeting was Eileen being very clear that we can't have any discussions on either side about the property until it's ended, which leaves a bit of a gray area here where, as of the 1st of August, unless we have a meeting that day, the liability and everything for the skate park falls in the school. But we can't discuss how to handle it until that happens. In the town, we can't have any discussions with the town until that date. So my comment is not wanting to leave this in limbo, because I know that the residents really want the park not to be shut down. My suggestion is that we try to find an opportunity to have a meeting, either of ourselves or get a response from the town that we can look and act upon as close to that date as we can. And I'd be, as a board member, willing to have a special meeting of the school board for that single topic, just to not have any big delay, because otherwise we're waiting until mid-August, because typically we have one meeting a month in the summer. So there'd be at least a 2-week delta during the summer where technically we'd have to close it down because we don't know how our liability and other things are there. So that's my suggestion.
And August 1st does fall on a Wednesday. So as I ran into Chair Harrington at the MVD election, actually, that was something in passing I did say is it looks like August 1st we need to get together. So she had mentioned that wait till the reorg on their end, of course, based on what the leadership will be on their end, and we will reach out to the chair and the town manager and try to plan accordingly. I think it gives us plenty of time to do that. So on that note, I think that would be actually a perfect day to meet. I think we meet often on Wednesdays. So if that can work for everyone, August 1st, then we'll try to make it work. And I'll reach out proactively. Clear your calendars for August 1st. So let's see what we can do. But it would be a joint meeting if we can resolve it that night, set expectations, and then move forward as quickly as possible. It would not be a bad thing. So, Chris, hi. Sorry about that.
So just for clarification, the skate park is staying until we can find a place to move it?
It's the town's responsibility, and the town is going to be basically made an overture that they'd be making a request of us. But they can't talk too much about it because of legal restrictions based on the current structure of the agreement with the federal government.
All right, so just as a request for, like, I think a lot of the schools would want this. They want the skate park to be close to the school so they can get to it from school. So that's just a request from the student body.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
That's all I have on that.
That's all you have. Okay.
Yeah.
Then we are on to item number 6, which is the third quarter curriculum review with Mark.
Thank you. I'll start with math. Particularly the elementary end of year reviews are going to cover math more completely when they come to you. But for now, I'll just report the following. Time flies, and we are approaching the end of the first year of our K-12 adoption of our new math curriculum. And just as a reminder, the curriculum is a continuous scope and sequence from grades K through 10, and then updated curriculum for Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and Geometry. Its chief reference is the College and Career Ready Standards, and it focuses on 4 things chiefly. Facts and fluency. This goes right through K to 10. Facts and fluency, number sense, problem solving, and the practical application of math to real-world situations like data analysis, which many of our students are going to face in the work world, estimating of trends. Today is tax day, or tomorrow is tax day. Even practical applications like taxes and being able to understand calculations that are practical in that respect. So lots and lots of real-world situations. I've just named a few, but that's really the goal of the curriculum, and it's also the goal of the College and Career Ready Standards. We also have received, because we're also in the first year of our program adoption for grades K through 8 minus Algebra 1. And so we have received additional training from consultants in the use of the program, including its range of assessments and technology. And that training has been in the form of train the trainer. So we've been able to maximize our resources by pulling in trainers to train math facilitators and selected teachers at each grade, and then those people are now providing in service to their colleagues at staff meetings, faculty meetings, and so on and so forth. And that has really worked very well to kind of get a lot of bang for the buck. Program evaluation for our new Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and Geometry programs in support of our curriculum is entering its final phase. We expect a decision on the Algebra 1, 2, and Geometry program to come by early June at the latest, and the board will hear that recommendation at that time. Phys Ed and Health, as you know, has been an area that we've been working on for the last few years, and I'm pleased to tell you that the team anticipates that by December 2018, so this December, they will have a completed program for your curriculum for your review. Right now, it's interesting. One of the tenets of the Phys Ed curriculum and the related Phys Ed and Health curriculum is lifelong health and wellness and making good choices. And so one of the opportunities out there now is something called fitness tracking, which is merely a way to be able to intake data about nutrition and exercise and so on and so forth, and then track your progress should you choose to adopt some of the strategies for lifelong health and wellness. And there are different tracking tools that are available for teachers to teach students, and so there's a conversation now about what those tracking tools might be. And of course, as I said a minute ago, that has an application for math in a number of ways. And so whether it's a calculation of calories or the calculation of calories lost given certain degrees of exercise and so on. They're also, the team is right now composing a list of directions and standards for each of the assessments that they have currently put in place for each unit. And they have, right now, they are very close, and probably over the summer will complete a unit K-12 for following along with the national standards for Phys Ed. The health curriculum continues its scope and sequence work. The high school is considering for their students, but creating, so the idea started with their high school students, and now it's taken root with elementary and middle school as well, of creating a video that would be kind of a support to the curriculum that would support common language, common vocabulary about certain key principles in the health and phys ed curriculum that they are looking to get permission from parents to have students be part of and potentially then produce for the district. And so that I'm very pleased about with summer work, and then a few more months in the fall, we'll have something to you by December 2018. I'm really excited to tell you that next month we're going to convene a committee to begin development of a new world language curriculum that for the first time will include grades 5 and 6. So up to this point, we've been very fortunate to have two outstanding teachers at the upper elementary school whose primary purpose has been to introduce French and Spanish to students, both as a way of getting them accustomed and familiar with those two languages, but more broadly to get them comfortable and familiar with what it's like to communicate in any other language, whatever they would ultimately choose in high school or college. This is the first time that we will now intentionally have a feeder program from the upper elementary school to the middle school to the high school that won't just be, and I say just in the most supportive way. I mean, those teachers are outstanding, but that will be more than an introduction and more than an enrichment, but will actually be an intentional beginning of a scope and sequence for world language. And during those meetings, we will continue to assess the viability of programs like Arabic and Mandarin, and perhaps introducing other languages, perhaps even sign. Those will all be conversations that we'll have in the course of our meeting. The focus will be on setting the stage for meaningful two-way verbal communication that will satisfy rigorous college expectations for admission, and will also serve to provide non-college matriculating students with what's called low intermediate skills upon graduation. So the expectation of a high school program is not to produce students who are fluent in a language, but to be able to produce students who are able to successfully leverage that world language learning, so that should they choose to apply to a rigorous college, they can be able to, or any college, they'll be able to have that as credits toward that wish. But also, if they should choose to be world language learners in the college, the expectation is that if you're low intermediate upon graduation, you're really ready for college learning. But then also, there are a lot of students who will benefit from that even if they don't go to college. And so our goal is as well to support students in just verbal communication at that low intermediate level, should they never choose to go to college, but have that skill set. And so those will be the focuses of our world language program going forward. And finally, next month also, we'll convene a committee to begin the development of a new social studies curriculum, K-12. The focus there, this has been a curriculum that's been in place actually probably for the longest time, but it is also really, it has stood the test of time. It's the first curriculum that was developed in Merrimack using the Understanding by Design method, and I have to compliment John Fabrizio and Marcia McGill because that was in place before I even got here, and it's really stood the test of time. However, 10, 12 years on, there's a lot that's changed. Politically, the political maps of Europe and Asia have changed in that time, and so there's a reason to revisit and to make sure that we continue to be aligned with the standards, and that it also reflects current and world events. And so there'll be much more to say in the upcoming year about those two programs. And then in addition, always with language arts, that it's funny, that falls into a category that hasn't really always kind of been on a cyclical review. It's kind of always reviewed. So at the high school, there's a process by which teachers introduce new materials, and there's a vetting process for that, whether it's new books or short story collections or what have you. Strategies for teaching comprehension and so on, and also at the lower grades, always trying to introduce different curriculum and instruction strategies, whether it's something called Making Meaning, Words Their Way, which is a replacement of the traditional kind of weekly spelling lists and so on. So that work is really ongoing and fueled by the language arts coordinators K through 8 and also work with the department. And I think with the department at the high school, and I think next year what we're going to try to do is establish a really tighter alignment between the middle school and the high school on a kind of a vertical curriculum. That would be the one thing that we haven't done in my time here, and I think it's time to have there be a more seamless connection between those two. And so that is our third quarter update, and I look forward to your being prepped, not prepped, but shared with more about math in the upcoming weeks when they come to talk to you.
Thank you. Are there questions? So Naomi, Cinda, and I think Andy.
So, world languages. You mentioned the upper elementary, and I was wondering if you could give a quick overview of what's already available at the high school or middle school for those listening who may not be familiar. Because you mentioned Arabic and Mandarin as something that might come lower, but they may not be aware of what already exists.
So, at the upper elementary school, grades 5 and 6, we have Spanish and French. At the middle school, we have Spanish and French. And at the high school, we have Spanish, French, currently Mandarin and Arabic, and Latin. Sorry, thank you. the most amazing, thank you, success story, actually, the literal resurrection of a dead language, and it's one of the most viable courses we have at the high school. Thank you for reminding me. I can't believe and I know, unbelievable. And so those are the courses. And so now the question, will be, how do we sustain and grow the Spanish and French program once it's now going to be intentionally built, starting at the upper elementary school, and then kind of what's our status with the other programs, and how will we grow them if growing is what they require. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. And a clarifier, because is it still that they get in 5th and 6th grade a half year of Spanish and a half year of French for each of the 2 years?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
My kids have been out for a couple of years, so I didn't know if there's a shift. So
that's how it currently is, and then one of the things on the table is how what we're proposing might impact that.
Gotcha.
Yep.
So thank you for that. Cinda, I think you're next, and Andy?
My questions are regarding the world language as well, and partially to what Shannon just asked about, which was that 50-50 split, and clarifying that. Because I know we've done it that way for quite a while within the district, and clarifying if that's still the best practice. Speaking for my own children, they struggled a little bit trying to flip-flop between the two languages. So it sounds like that we'll be evaluating that and looking to see if that's the best course going forward.
We will exactly be evaluating that. And, what's fun about what's to come is because now that I want to be careful because those two teachers are so great and so outstanding. Everything that they do has been just a value add. What they cannot do, because we haven't provided it to them, is intentionally connect the initial experience that they provide to students with anything that kind of comes after. So now it's because it's somewhat more of an introduction and an enrichment, and then kind of there it is, and then we sort of, for lack of a better word, really begin at grade 6, grade 7. But that's going to change now. So the implication of that change is all the things that you raise. What will that mean now for how we, talk about decisions that you make? And lots of kids in the early days like to, kind of play around with a couple of things until they find a fit. So, but it'll all be in the context now of really understanding that instruction actually technically literally begins in 5th grade with a potential scope and sequence right through 12th.
Okay. And then I would also like to say that I'm very supportive of our world language program. I think we offer a very, probably my guess is one of the best programs in the state. I believe we may be the only district that offers Arabic and one of a few that offer Mandarin. Mm-hmm. So I like the idea of being able to support that all the way through, not just from freshman year on and up. And I think for a long time, I know, Shannon, you felt this way too about being able to expose or at least come in and have the world language program present more frequently to the middle school students and things like that to try to generate interest in these programs, because I do think that they're differentiators. I think, when children apply to go to college, you've got some differentiators when we offer something that, a lot of other kids may not have. So I'm excited to hear how that progresses and what we come up with.
I am too.
Thank you. Andy?
So just one clarifying point. When you're talking about social studies, you talked about wanting to revamp the curriculum given all the changes over the last 12 years or so. But we do update materials in between so that the geopolitical maps are not like 12 years old. I mean, we do sort of keep up with that so that they're getting current. So I just want to make sure that, because if you listen to what you said, it sounded like we haven't done anything in 10 to 12 years in all the geopolitical change. But in fact, we are at least current with where it is, right?
Thank you for that clarification. Yes, absolutely, we are. What I was trying to reference is that in Merrimack, we've really tried to have curriculum that doesn't sit on a shelf dusty, and so our teachers work very hard to stay current. And what that has meant with some of the changes that have happened, and with the materials that we have been able to provide to teachers that are current, wanting to develop a curriculum that's as contemporary as the materials that they have, so that the curriculum actually is alive and not kind of put over here because I know what I need to teach, but I don't have a scope and sequence that supports that. So you're absolutely right. They have updated materials. I want a curriculum to match that. Thank you for the clarification.
Michael?
Thank you for the update. One of the things that, as you're looking at possibly the curriculum for social studies, if there is a change, if you could look at the impact that possibly like the math change had in regards to not actually having all the materials up front, such as the workbooks and I think the actual textbooks together, making sure that all supporting document might be needed up front versus actually a rolled out way that we did it with the math, seeing if that's an impact and how that might have had with the teachers or anything like that too. So I'd appreciate it. Yeah, it's budget based. I mean, it's definitely. I understand that it's budget. That's why it was done in the budget. But I think that there was some challenges with parents and children in regards to actually being able to go through those classes without the actual supporting text and workbooks at the same time.
Okay. And I had another question on world language, and I know that we were dabbling with the, in my days in Park, I've been off for a couple of years now, but college credit for because we're sequencing the 4th and 5th year foreign language when you are placed in the 2nd year foreign language, say for Spanish and French. Of course, if we reach down into lower grades with Mandarin, Arabic, or Latin, that those can also present themselves as a 4th or 5th year language student, but without college credit. So I know that there are definite certifications that need to be in place for our high school teachers to meet the criteria to be able to teach a college level class. So I don't know if, as you're reviewing that, this developing world language curriculum, if some of the requirements to be able to offer that are evaluated, so that we can look to segment them up to college credit and have those electives taken care of while in high school at a lower cost to our students. Obviously, when you're dual enrolled, it's much cheaper than when you're enrolled on campus at a college. So knowing whatever we can do to get those affordable alternatives for our students presented, that would be something I think would be interesting to know too.
So I can tell you that Angela Maslanka, who's the world language department head at the high school, specifically has talked about that very thing, and she has a lot of connections. She has established a lot of connections with some partners in higher ed, and I know has a great interest in pursuing that. So I have no doubt that there'll be lots to talk about with her at the helm of this initiative in the coming months. It's definitely an interest of hers for sure.
Ditto. That's interesting to us as well. So thank you. Are there any other questions on the curriculum update? Seeing none, thank you very much. We're on to item number 7, which is a request to initiate water filtration system for the 6 schools to meet September deadline. Matt.
Thank you. With the passing of the budget, you all know that incorporated in that budget was $120,000 to bring the PFOA levels of each of the 6 schools for the drinking water and the water that people use for cooking in the kitchens down to 0. So that's in the operating budget. We've had discussions in order to come up with that price tag with a corporation called Second Wind out of Manchester. They were brought to the table through us calling different companies. Most of the companies that we talked to did not do commercial scale filtration systems as far as that goes. A lot of them did residential. Second Wind was the company that we called that did do a commercial application, and they were willing to give us their time, efforts, and energy to design the system, come up with a couple of solutions, the activated charcoal system and the reverse osmosis system, and give us a price for everything, turnkey, plumbing included, everything like that. So they have and they own the specification right now. As far as bidding goes, what we do now is currently we bid out for roofing projects. You know, a couple of years ago we bid out the middle school roof. We got a price on that enabled us to do the entire roof instead of just 3/4 of the roof. So we bid out roofing projects, asbestos, food service supplies, waste disposal, transportation services, furniture, some office equipment, everything that we can. We also have trusted partners that we work with, like Keach Nordstrom, civil engineering company, who put together specifications for us in order to go out to bid. An example of that was the MHS track project that was done. If you look at that specification that's in my office that Keach Nordstrom did, it's around 1 inch thick. So all the site work and all the brickwork and all the dimensions of the railings and what the materials for the track and everything was specified. So that went out to bid and was shopped around. Right now, Second Wind has the specification. We've been talking to them. Like I said, they've been in front of the board, I believe, a couple of times. They were recommended to us by the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services. So after the facilities director's frustration with trying to find somebody that would be available to help us out in getting a number, understanding our options, he called up the state DES, and New Hampshire DES recommended this company that we had before you earlier. In fact, just last week, I hope I don't let anything out of the bag for Portsmouth, but Portsmouth School District called us up and asked us who we were thinking of using, and we gave them their number. So they'll be having a conversation with Portsmouth School District too. Their PFOA levels are around 2, 3, 4, but they want to get down to 0, just like we do. So Second Wind owns the specification. We kind of view them as a trusted partner. We have a few of those here. Honeywell, obviously, has been to the board numerous occasions over the years. They're a trusted partner that we've worked with on a lot of projects. Everything that they sub out to others has been bid, but Honeywell is basically the project manager of everything. And years ago, before we had any security cameras in the school district, that was a very long time ago, we had worked with B&S Integrated Systems. Bill Pokel is the president of that company. He's also a Merrimack resident, and he's also was a member of the Merrimack Budget Committee. He came and he spoke with the board about security cameras, did a specification for us, and we did bid that out, which is kind of interesting because if you're bidding out his specification and his number is already known to other bidders, you know, they know what they're bidding against, which doesn't quite make it fair. But we did receive some bids on that job that were well above what we had budgeted, and working with the company allowed us to get the amount of security cameras into the high school, and then at each exterior, at least one at each of the elementary schools that maintained our budget. So that's how that was developed. So right now, what we're kind of asking for is, do you feel comfortable awarding the contract, going with Second Wind, seeing they have the specification, they have the contractors lined up, they can meet the September 1st deadline? Or is this something that you want to look at buying the specification from Second Wind, having me put an ad in the paper, and having this project being bid probably over the late spring, early summer, and try to get it done over the school year or even next summer? So I guess that's the question.
Question heard. So let's talk. I think it was Michael and Andy.
I want to make a motion, but I'll let Andy speak first. Go ahead.
Okay, Andy, please speak.
Cool. So a couple of questions. So obviously what you painted is a picture that when we first started, when the board requested of administration to go and find contractors and vendors to be able to do this level of filtration that we were interested in, you came up empty, went to the New Hampshire DES and found out there was really one that they recommended that has done, and if I remember correctly, they've done other school systems.
Absolutely.
We know that that's the case. So at this point in time, as far as we know, there's one vendor. The vendor has taken the time to put together specifications specifically for our schools to be able to address all 6 schools for the water fountains and the potable places for cooking. That's in spec, and that's how we get that 120-some thousand odd number that's in there.
Mm-hmm.
If we were to buy the spec, first of all, my first question is, do we know what the cost would be to buy the specification from them? Ballpark?
In talking with them, probably around 2,000.
Okay, so it's not significant. If we then had to go out to bid, do you have any indication that the landscape has changed in terms of vendors that would be able to do this level of construction and filtration?
Well, especially when we got a call from Portsmouth School District just last week saying, who are you going, because we're coming up empty, I would say no.
So my final question is, have you contacted the other school districts that have used them for filtration to find out whether the price that they did, if they did any bidding or not? Because the bottom line I'm trying to get to is, I understand that by optimizing the time and using them will get us fastest to the filtration, which is obviously a concern. But I think that there's some people, in taxpayers as well as us, would always like to know that we're not getting the highest bid, even though it's the fastest. Is it possible for you to just confirm with some of the school districts they identified what they found when they went for bid to find out why they chose them? Or were they, again, the only game in town? That'd be my only outstanding
The school districts
question.
that we did talk to, we talked around 3 or 4 of them on that letter that you saw there, where there was like 10 or 12.
Yep.
They went the kind of, they interviewed them, they hired them, they went design build with this, and they developed the spec as they went along, as then they were awarded the contract. Because it's such a specialty kind of area, it wasn't something that lent itself to a generic spec that you could put out there. So that's the route they went.
Right, because I know that people that have gone to look for private home filtration, there are options for private homes. And as you mentioned, I know that there's other vendors that do private home, but a vendor that wants to do commercial level like we're doing here are much harder to find, especially with the expertise to deal with PFOAs and the other filtration. So what I'm trying to do is to make sure that we're not just taking the first one that we come across. There's been due diligence to understand other districts that have used them, to make sure that we've looked and gotten recommendation from like the DES, that they're the vendor to consider, that they've done a fair amount of work, they understand the issue and can, and more, not only can design and install it, but we can also rely on them to maintain the system after it's installed. I mean, I'm assuming, if I remember correctly during the presentations, that was part of the discussion, is that they were able to maintain on an ongoing basis the plumbing and all the other aspects, as well as the upgrade or the maintenance that we'll need to do for the canisters and the charcoal over time.
Yeah, that's correct. The part of the secondary part of this process is much like the security cameras, where you have the maintenance agreement from BNS Integrated Systems. They were the ones who did the install, the design work, everything like that, and we continue to work with them over the years, and they're the ones we have our service contract with. So it would be the same kind of scenario.
Naomi? Oh, did you do the motion at this point? Okay. That's fine.
No, I'll withhold doing the motion tonight, but I think that some of the questions that you asked Andy are actually, some of them, not all of them, but are outlined here. Is that obviously the challenge is getting someone to actually even bid on this. The thing that I think is clear is that there really does seem to be one, maybe there is another one out there, but I think it's limited to really just that resource based off the challenges that Matt had to go through. I'm not against Matt going out and seeing if there's other schools that can provide additional information on that. I would ask that, I think that it would be prudent for us to move forward and get this done by September. So I personally am in favor based off the information Matt has provided, but obviously I'd like the rest of the board to also feel comfortable with moving forward with this solution with this company. So once everybody else maybe gets a little bit more information, I'd obviously like to provide the administration with that support too. So
Okay. Naomi and Cindy, you have your hand up as well. Okay.
You've sort of answered this, Matt, but just again, the clarification piece. In the various pieces that we've gone through, because we've been talking about this from quite some time, have any other companies come up that would fall within this domain?
We've been contacted by, I believe, one company that we kind of told the scope to, and it was kind of not within their book of business, so to speak. It was either on a larger scale or something that was, they were looking to do the whole school right from the source, as opposed to the way we're doing it, because it's kind of complex. It's a lot less expensive, but it entails running plumbing, new plumbing, to going to each water fountain in the school from the source, which would be the new filtration system, as opposed to just taking the main pipe that includes toilets and lavatories and the sprinkler system and just filtering at the source. So it's a little bit, you're trying to get a custom car built, basically, right now. And every piece is kind of tailor-made. It's not impossible, but we haven't found anybody who would be willing to do it as far as the scope was presented to them.
Cindy?
I mean, I agree with the point of doing just a little bit more due diligence, which would be any school districts, like Andy had suggested, that have gone a similar route. You were explaining it a little bit, but I'm not sure I caught it. But at least just to make sure that there's not
The ones we did contact went the same route we did.
Okay.
Brought them in for an interview. Greg Serini, who's a water an engineer.
The same company that
Yes,
we're going to be
correct.
using. Oh, okay.
Yes.
So
Because we had a list on the first memo that was written, probably like 12 school districts that they had worked for. We called up around 3 of them that we knew, and we asked what their process was. And the process was basically, once they came in and they explained everything and the situation and the ongoing relationship and gave their references or something like that, it was a logical next step that if they wanted to go with filtration system, they acquired their services.
yeah, and I'm not opposed
With
to
the ones that I talked to, I can talk to certainly more.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to using this company. I think it's laid out. I think the price, but I think that talking to a couple of more would give a little
can
more
do that.
assurance that
Yep.
we've done some deeper due diligence. The other thing is I don't think that an ad in the paper would work because it's such specialized work that I feel like that would be a waste of our resources to try to put an ad in the paper for this kind of work. So those are my thoughts. But all in all, if we come up with, do we have a couple more weeks till our next meeting before
Yeah,
we have
May
to give that
7th.
commitment? So then
I can do some more background and give you some information at May 7th.
or the alternative would be that, that's what I would suggest.
And Matt, do you feel like by our next meeting, we would be able to get maybe some preliminary research information we can just put on our agenda as ongoing business, or do you need a little more time than that? Because, obviously if there's anything that we want to do between now and May 7th, that might be different, time to actually, vet it. So would that be a challenge? I mean, I want to be fair to you as well, that you're not, under the gun to give us information. It's not,
Well, I can call up the other districts that were on the list and find out what their process was. That's
maybe
a
who else
task
they may have
that can
spoken
be-
with, or who else they may have spoken with, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what I would hope then is that on May 7th agenda, Matt weighs in, tells you what he's learned, and the board hopefully takes action that night, because we are very concerned about timing, and that's 4 months. If you wish to have this done for the first day of school in September, which we thought is what you wanted.
Michael?
Just for clarification on Annie's request, are you looking for possibly comparable price points that the other districts actually paid also, or just another discussion
Well,
with those schools?
Not specific price points, but rather find out, I mean, we're not the first people to come down the block to worry about filtration inside of schools. And if they've given us a list of 12 schools that have done this, let's learn from them to see what other companies that they went to, what they found that the cost of second wind. I mean, lowest cost is one of the dimensions, but also the ability to, whether the design was solid, how they've been to work with in terms of, because all these have been installed, so they've been around for a while. So they would be sort of that ongoing relationship, how they've been to stand behind their work, handle things that went wrong during the warranty period, things like that. Because I think if you take a step back and try to look for different vendors to do this, it's going to delay us, and I think our ability to do it during the summer will be at risk. And I think we as a board want to try to achieve this before school starts, right? But on the other hand, I want us to feel comfortable that these other districts that have used Second Wind learn from their diligence that they did, find out the costing part of it to see who they might have gone to or what the cost is, just to get their experience, but then also how they've been to work with both during the install as well as afterwards.
I could do if they went and got other prices, I could give you the information how they fell in the scheme of those jobs, but to do a comparative to our job, because they're all different.
No. It's scope and I mean, if they went to company A, B, and C for a job that was their spec, they found that Second Wind was in the middle, but
Okay.
their designs
That I
are
can
better.
do.
I mean, nobody's the same as us. I don't want
Right.
us to reinvent the wheel. I want to know whether this company is reputable, their price is there, and more importantly, their service is there.
Okay.
I'm just looking for references along that
Yep.
mostly.
We can do that.
Cinda?
I mean, does the 3 weeks delay us too much? Because the alternative would be that if you go and do the action that we've asked, and as administration, you're comfortable with the answers that you've given, that then the option would be that we would grant the authority to be able to move forward, because we are on a cycle of the 3 weeks till our next meeting, which is almost
the
a
May
month.
the May 7th date is the last possible date you could let me know to ensure that we could get it done during the summertime.
Right. So I think the question is, can you get us some preliminary information
Yeah.
from other vendors before that meeting, so we don't have to make the decision
From other school districts.
from other school districts, and even
Who
what
could-
other vendors may have been available to investigate. So that way, we felt like we've done that before that May 7th meeting.
Yep.
So that way, on May 7th, we feel comfortable about going one way or
So
another.
just to be clear, if we, at the May 7th meeting that happens at night, tell you, yes, go with them, that's not too late to have it done and be booked for this.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, Michael?
Yeah, I just wanted to maybe add some clarification, because I think the discussion may be coming across to the public that some of this due diligence may not have been done thoroughly, and I feel that Matt has actually done a very thorough job. I think that this company came forward in a time when we were actually looking at millions of dollars to actually do filtration. So I think it's everything that the administration has done to this point has actually provided what I feel is adequate information to actually make a decision on my part. But I want it to be clear to the public that what we're asking for is just some additional due diligence, not that you haven't done enough already.
Yeah,
So-
that's fine.
I think that's consensus. Thank you.
Thank you.
So with that, we are done with item number 7. We're going on to item number 8, which is a request to appeal the school board decision of March 12, 2018 regarding the homework protocol by Robert Bevel. And I turn it over to you, Marge.
Thank you. So this really is just to let the board and the public know the next steps in the process. So Robert Bevel requested a public hearing on the homework protocol back on March 12th. The board went through that evening and listened
to what he had to say, and then gave a response to him about the homework protocol. And so the letter that has come via certified mail is to say that he's going forward to the next step, which is an appealing of the board's rendering on March 12th. And then, if you see a secondary document, before you go before the State Board of Education, there's what is known as a pre-hearing, and a hearing officer listens to what the party wants, and in some cases, I think, tries to do some kind of mediation at the table if possible. If not, then it will go forward before the State Board. You will note that the pre-hearing date, which is established by the Department of Education hearing officer, was established for April 23rd, 2018, which happens to fall during school vacation week. Our attorney, in this case, it is not going to be Kathy Peel who sat with you on the night of March 12th, but it is going to be Dean Eggert. And Dean Eggert, on our behalf, has notified the Department of Ed that that would be not the best time. You can say once that the time is not appropriate, and they will try and come up with another time. So we have given over some dates in May, early May, for this to occur. So we're just waiting for our attorney to get a response back from the hearing officer. So I would just say we will keep you informed as we go along, but right now we're very hopeful that the pre-hearing will occur in May.
Thank you. Cinda. Oh, sorry, Cinda.
Obviously, this is a new process for this board. What is the obligation of the board during that pre-hearing?
This is a new process for me as well.
Yeah.
And so I would say that Attorney Eggert has had experience, and he will be our guiding force. And to this point, the only thing that has been done is just ask for a change of date. So as we go forward, I believe I will be the one that represents the school board at the table, and I will also ask that Assistant Superintendent McLaughlin be a witness, and I will also ask Attorney Eggert if he feels it's necessary to have any board representation, and if so, I would assume the chair would be the representative.
Okay, so it's not all of us.
No,
so it's not like
it is
there's going to
not.
be another
No,
date that we all
no.
have to try to be
It
available.
is. I think it is me serving as your representative, and if he feels it important to have a board member, I would make the assumption, though need it clarified, that the chair would be the one that would speak on your behalf.
Michael, you had your hand up?
Thank you. Just for my better understanding, kind of like Cinda's talking about, is this a public open hearing that would actually be presented?
I will have to get back to you on that. I just don't have enough information, not having gone through this before. So once we meet with him, because we obviously have to get ready for the event, but given that this just came to us on April 10th, we're just trying to get the date settled so that Mr. Bevel realizes that, and so on. So Attorney Eggert's letter just has gone out to the hearing officer and to him, so we just await the response. But I will definitely keep you informed once we have this meeting with Attorney Eggert. We're just not there yet.
Okay. Any other questions? Then we will go on to item number 9, which is the approval of the school board minutes. Start with April 2nd, 2018. I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes of April 2nd, made by Andy, seconded by Michael. Any adjustments to the minutes? Cinda.
On page 4, line number 160, the line states, Board Member Guagliumi noted that the more proactive the district can become in delivering Tier 1 instruction, the less reactive it will need to be. And then I would just request that you add on the less reactive it will need to be in Tiers 2 and 3, allowing for the ability to support more kids for our resources to support more kids in the district. Page 5, line 216, there's just a small typo. Line 215 and 16, it says if parents opt in, it would be if parents opt into the survey and research issues are sorted out, then she will support this request. That's all I have.
Are there any other edits? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, none. The motion carries 5-0. On to April 5th. I'll entertain a motion to approve the 5th. Made by Cinda, second. Seconded by Naomi. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, none. The motion carries 5-0. We are on to item number 10, which is the consent agenda with Mark.
Thank you. On consent tonight, we have the following educator resignations and retirements. Megan Donegan, second grade teacher at Mastrocola Elementary School. Deb Gerber, special ed coordinator at Merrimack High School. Hannah Lowell, second grade teacher at Thorntons Ferry Elementary School. Lei Zhui, Mandarin teacher at Merrimack High School. Sydney Conti, language arts coordinator at Thorntons Ferry School. Sheila Demers, preschool coordinator for the district. And Barbara Lacey, first grade teacher at Mastrocola Elementary School. In addition, on consent tonight, educator nominations for 2018-2019. And finally, on consent, approval of non-educational surveys and questionnaires policy.
I will entertain a motion. Andy?
I move that we approve the entire consent agenda, including the resignation retirements, the packet of educator nominations for the next school year, and the approval of the non-educational surveys and questionnaires policy.
Is there a second? Seconded by Naomi. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, none. The motion carries 5-0. On to item number 11, which is school board committee assignments. In your packets, you have our current assignments, as well as descriptions of the assignments for each of the committees that subcommittees that we represent. As we've done in past years when the board hasn't changed, for in the spirit of continuity, we've always tried to keep consistency unless there were areas that members wanted to investigate as far as participate and get more participation in, and second, whether the schedules of our actual paying jobs don't afford us the opportunity to serve on those committees anymore. So with that, over the next couple of weeks, I wanted to finalize the assignments. So if there's anyone that wants to make a switch or a swap, those kind of things, then we can absolutely do that. Michael, I see your hand up for a question or comment.
Just a clarification. I believe that Naomi was part of the MESA.
Right. This was just last year's. We had to make a change last second because of someone had been negotiating two contracts at the same time. So with that, we made the adjustment, and that's how you and Cinda did advise confer, and Naomi and I did MESA.
So, and who, I thought that the switch was that I was MTA as an alternate. Am I not calling that correctly? Or the second?
I would have to double check that from last year to the adjustment. But we will make some adjustments, obviously, to adjust for what we had to adjust last year to get proper coverage for the contracts. But with that, if there's other committee assignments, regular ones as well, you want to change, we can talk about that. But if there's actual coverage you're assigned to that you need to make a change to, let me know. And when it comes to the negotiations, we do have MTA coming up, and there will definitely be an adjustment to that. So, Cinda?
I mean, I'm wondering if you could just read through some of the assignments, because
Sure.
I'm not sure that the broader public is aware of the way that we break out into committees across the community, really. So,
Be glad to do that. So, assignments are chair and vice chair. We have a budget committee assigned member. We also keep an alternate, so that way there's always coverage at the meetings. The New Hampshire School Boards Association delegate, and we also have an alternate to that. because it's on a Saturday, so we know that can cause scheduling conflicts. We have Ceresk. That is something I'll take a moment to that one. And Andy has served as well as the Ceresk representative. However, Ceresk changing its direction isn't going to have district representatives the way they did in the past. Andy has expressed his willingness to still serve on Ceresk for the greater good of students. And with that, I think we want to keep it on this list, not as a school board committee assignment, but as a placeholder for his time serving the community students. So with that, I will keep it there, but it will not be a board assignment. That will be assigned by Ceresk and not by us. But we want to make sure we're conscious of his time as we're assigning other things to him. We have PERC, which is the Program Evaluation Review Committee. That is where we choose new coursework. We evaluate existing coursework and programs, and for its effectiveness and current relevance. And we keep 2 representatives to that one, and no alternates, but we do keep 2 permanent representatives. The School Bus Stop Committee, that meets as needed when there's questions on students that are being picked up, whether it's the appropriate place, time, route for our students, where parents can request a School Bus Stop Committee meeting at the site where in question. And that meets as needed. The Professional Development Committee, which is goes into making sure our professional development funds and certifications of our staff are being managed and funded appropriately. And that is done with a regular board member, and there is an alternate. So again, there's consistent coverage. Planning and Building Committee, there is 1 member to that. Merrimack Safeguard, we added 2 members to that because of the significance of what we're doing with at-risk youth, and we want to make sure that there's ample coverage. So we have 2 full-time positions to that committee. And Parks and Rec, we have a seat at the Parks and Rec committee as a school board, and we keep an alternate, so again, there's always coverage because they meet monthly. The Wellness Policy Implementation Committee, that does not have an alternate. Collective bargaining has 2 members, cannot have a third, because then you have a quorum that's actually deliberating, and that's not done. Healthcare Cost Containment Committee has a rep. District Parent Group has a rep, and Communications Committee has 1 rep, down from 2. Chris, did you have your hand up? Just stretching? Please do. It can be a long night. And you probably had a long day at school, so no problem. Thank you. Michael?
As much as I appreciate Andy and his willingness to continue with Ceresk, I think any reference to committees that are outside of the school board should actually be removed from this list, such as some of the others that are listed down below. I think that individuals within the community are serving other areas within the community, and I think it's beneficial to keep this clean to the actual
that's
committees
fine with
that
us.
are actually aligned with the school. So.
If that's the will of the board, that's what we'll do.
It is a new change, so
No, and I think it's my reference
right.
to another reference that's on here that we did not discuss.
Yeah, no, that's
so.
fine. That's fine.
Thank you.
Okay. And actually, to be clear, in the last year, the Greater Woods Subcommittee, it's now a school board seat. So it used to be me, and then it became a school board seat about 6 months ago.
How is that actually created and actually supported by the school board?
The
Was it?
Conservation Committee, the one who actually assigns the subcommittee.
But I'm asking, did the school board actually discuss wanting representation on that, or?
We always had it, and then when they disbanded it and recollected it, they did not have one. I applied as an at-large when it was redeveloping, but there was not a school board member assigned to that committee, and the Conservation Commission reconsidered their position of not having a school board assigned representative.
I guess I'm just asking for a point of order whether we actually discuss what committees were actually, and the school board actually dictates where representatives is, or does the committee actually request it?
Parks and Rec requested our presence years before I got here.
But you said it was disbanded and then it was come back together, so.
When I'm talking about Parks and Rec, you asked about examples. So Parks and Rec is one that had it in their bylaws. The Conservation Commission put it in their bylaws, and I mentioned it at one of my subcommittee meetings, that's now a school board assigned seat months ago.
So let me be clear. So because it's now a official liaison role,
Yes.
should it now appear back in the list?
It will appear back in the list.
Right.
So since it's
Okay,
last
that's what you were
Thank
getting
yes, I mean that's since obviously
just like
I called it
Ceres-
out because it hasn't been, and
Right.
there was no discussion.
So like
to actually
Ceresca's going
bring
to
it,
fall
so-
out, Greater Wood should fall back in.
And
Sounds good. Thank you.
so I can add it back, and that's why I brought it up, to add it back on.
Actually been on for a couple years, so thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, we will go on to item number 12, which is correspondence. Oh, is there any correspondence to come before the board? Cinda.
We did receive collectively the correspondence from the one constituent that questioned why our ballots were not part of the mailing like the town council was.
Correct.
So that was the one that I can think of.
Okay, and so that covers all of us, so thank you for that.
Yeah.
Is there any other correspondence to come before the board? When I came to my place sitting tonight, we did get a thank you letter, a thank you card, and it is from Sheila Demers, preschool coordinator, who, as you noticed, was in our retirements tonight, thanking the board for the continued and long-standing support of the early education program for the district and the good it has done for our students. So with that, is there any other correspondence to come before the board? Seeing none, we're on to comments. Any comments from the board? Seeing none, new business. Is there any new business to come before the board? Michael.
I'd like to make a request that we actually start discussing the track, not the track, the actual field within the track, and whether that's something that we're going to move forward with this year and how we might be able to fund that. I know that we've had some discussion in regards to looking at a balanced approach of, donations along with taxpayer funding. And I think that if that is something that we do want to move forward with this year, I think we need to do that now and make that decision. Because it would take a year to obviously do some fundraising and possibly look at the community at large to see if there's other people that would want to help with that.
Andy?
So we gave a charge to the planning and building to take the ball with that and look at options for fundraising and along those lines. I know they did a preliminary report out, but I think that if we do take this up as a board, that we include them because I think the
Well,
superintendent wants
They
to.
got, no, to your point, they had a 3-part charge, and that was the last part.
Mm-hmm.
And so they've come before you once, but technically Rich Hendricks, the chair, was planning to come back again. It's just that we were in the throes of many other things going on. And so I would at least want to just go back to him to say, are you ready to come before the board? And I would say it probably wouldn't be May 7th, but it might be, a meeting thereafter, or let's say before this school year concludes. There are 4 meetings left before the school year concludes, and perhaps I could just ask him one of those dates he would be willing to come before you. And that way, they would have completed the 3 charges, if you will. And then if you needed to redirect, that would be an appropriate time perhaps to do that.
Okay.
Is that, yes?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want it soon. I mean, I think that we've been kicking this can for 2 years now, so I'd like to try to move it forward. Thank you.
Okay, and Andy, currently, if you are the planning and building committee liaison, I know that administration also works with them, so definitely if you can share the sentiment of the board, that would be appreciated. The bearer of the news. Thank you. More new business. Mark.
Just an update. Letters went out today to kindergarten families, alerting them that the makeup days due to inclement weather are scheduled for May 24 and 25, and then May 31 and June 1. So a little different than last year, which was 4 consecutive Fridays. The teachers have opted for this, thinking that for a variety of reasons it would be more beneficial, and so that's what we're going to do. And today was another example to remind us that winter is still not quite ready to let us go. So we hope for the best.
I don't think if I put spring on the agenda, it still would have shown up. So, Andy,
So just to be clear, the delay that we had today does not affect the end of school nor any of the plans for kindergarten. We're still based on the plan that you sort of laid out, right?
That is correct.
Okay, thanks.
that elephant in the room got taken care of. Thank you. Are there any other? Is there any other new business to come before the board? Chris?
A while ago, we mentioned having Sarah present the AOK thing in front of the board. Do we still want to do that, or are we gonna hold off on that?
Absolutely. We want to make sure that the
All
date
right, because
had
she
come
was
along.
asking if we were still wanting to do that.
Sure.
All right.
So Merrimack High School will be doing its presentation before the board on the 21st of May, so it might be an appropriate time for her to come the night that we're highlighting the high school.
Excellent. Cinda?
I was just going to say she did a great job with the presentation at the Safeguard meeting. She's fantastic, and overall the meeting went well too. So,
Excellent.
although I kind of just merged onto community reports.
A little bit. That's right. It gets fluid this time of night. So if there's no other new business, we'll go on to committee reports, and I'll let you start, Cinda, since you started. You're all set. So Safeguard just did it. Great. Any other committee reports? Andy? Oh, I'm sorry, Chris. Since your hand up.
The robotics team competed at the district champs in Boston this weekend. We didn't win our award, and we're stopping here, but we had a good season this year, and we're going on to off-season competitions.
Excellent. Thanks, Chris. Andy?
So right before this meeting, we had the monthly Ceres Board of Directors meeting. As I mentioned last month, Ceres, the Board of Directors approved a new set of bylaws, sort of redirecting the way that organization will go moving into the next fiscal year. Tonight, there was a set of brainstorming and nominations around who would make up that board. So I know that Merrimack participated to give some suggestions of names. Again, the board will, instead of being made up of superintendents and school board members, now will be made up of sort of a plethora of education-based resources as well as business-based resources and in other walks of life, with a board of directors anywhere from 9 to 13 members. So Ceres is sort of re-swizzling itself, if you will, to prepare for the next fiscal year. So we were certainly an active part of that, and hopefully we'll have a place as part of the board of directors during this transitional period. And also we notified the board of directors that the vote for the town for the purchase of the Brentwood property had passed, so that it will allow us to continue to move forward and be able to do the right thing to ultimately close on this, get the inspections done of the property and all the due diligence, so that right after the fiscal year change, we're able to do that and take possession of the property. So,
Are there any other committee reports? I'm going to, as a point of privilege, I just wanted to go back to correspondence for a moment. And I forgot to mention, all of our packets, we received a letter that went to John Fabrizio from the State Department of Education, and Indicator 11, timeliness of initial evaluations for the 2017-18 reporting year. We came in as 100% compliant. The way we used to do things, the way the state used to do things, not us, we would have done it the same. But they used to give us all our indicators in one report. Now they're going to give it to us one at a time. So we'll be doing it in correspondence instead of having to go through every indicator in one night. So we'll get it as we receive it. So, and I apologize for not mentioning that earlier. So on to item number 15, which is public comments on agenda items. If you'd like to speak on the agenda, again, name and address for the record.
Hello, Jason Brodsky, 5 Lexi Circle. Just a couple questions for the board on the water filtration. Just first, for my clarification, the plan that we've worked up with Second Wind is for point of use, or is it for the full entrance of all the water into the buildings?
We don't normally
We
answer
don't,
questions,
yeah, we
but
don't. Public comments are public comments, so it's usually. I will let you know that it's for
point of use.
point of use.
Okay.
But
we
yeah,
didn't say
it's
that.
definitely for.
No,
It's,
no, that's
yeah,
fine.
sorry.
Appreciate it. That's fine. So the other comment is I would request that the board consider the contract with Second Wind or whoever we go through to have a guarantee for the PFOA level of 0, so that we don't spend all that money on getting 1 or 2 parts in the water, but the 0 that we're paying for. Also, I would request that it might be a good idea to ask the other schools who have used Second Wind for their results of water testing, which I assume they've done in subsequent years to verify the effectiveness. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Seeing there's no other public, we will close public comments. We'll take a moment to sign the manifest. Now we'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Made by Michael, seconded by Andy. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. The motion carries 5-0-0. Thank you and good night.